All right. Okay, well, welcome everybody to Wednesday Night Live. The wait is over. We're glad that you are all here with us tonight, and want to say that there are a lot of people out there that would like to come in here. Now, you of all that are in here have had your priority seating, so you got to come in and get the seat that you want, and so we are going to allow for some other people to come in now, and so if you could just make room in your rows, if you need to scoot in or scoot over or whatever you got to do, we're going to have a few more join us inside here tonight for a program. And we are excited about tonight. We're glad that you are all here. Everybody that is watching online, welcome to our watch and Wednesday Night Live. Before we go too much further, though, would you join me as we pray for this evening's program? Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here tonight. And what we are going to be talking about is so important, and we want to be listening attentively, God, and so we just ask that you would bless the conversation that is going to take place between Pastor Tim and General Flynn. We pray that it would be glorifying to you. We pray that this would be a light for many to watch, and that this program would spread far and wide. So we lift up the topic and the conversations to you tonight, and ask that you bless it all and just thank you for being here with us. And we pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so here we go with Wednesday Night Live. I've got a few announcements for you guys. The first of which is that the Our Watch Live tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Make sure that you tune in for that. Has anybody been tuned in for the lives during the week? Our Watch, okay. So you can do that on the YouTube channel. You could do that on Rumble. You could do that on Facebook. We're working on having that consistently at ourwatch.com as well, so stay tuned for more information about that. Tomorrow, the guest is going to be Lisa Peters, and she's the election official from the state of Colorado who addressed the election fraud, and is now being sued. So she's got a very interesting story you're going to not want to miss tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the Our Watch YouTube channel. Also, want to remind you, the website ourwatch.com has been newly revamped, and that's the place where you can become a watchman. Those that became a watchman subscriber were the ones that had the priority seating for tonight's event. And I got to tell you, there's going to be a lot of other opportunities coming up that you're going to want to make sure that you are a watchman subscriber to take advantage of those benefits for. Not to mention, it helps Our Watch really complete the mission that we are here to do. And so you all get to be a part of that. So we thank you for your support. We thank you for your sponsorship. We thank you for watching and sharing and just taking part in what we do here with Our Watch. So thank you very much. If you're watching online and you would like to help the cause, you can do so at ourwatch.com/donate. While you're there, make sure that you join the email list as well, because you're going to get all the current updates on what has taken place and what is soon to take place and all the different things coming up through Our Watch. So make sure you get all those details by signing up for the email list. After tonight, as you probably already know, there's not going to be any more Wednesday Night Live. So you can all say it with me, how sad that is. Oh, we're going to miss you too. But make sure that you keep tuning in, because Pastor Tim will be putting out probably a lot more content, as well as Jessica Tapia, who has joined the Our Watch team as well. She's been doing some great interviews and has a lot of great things coming as well. So make sure that you guys stay tuned in for all of that. Lastly, want to remind you guys about the Our Watch Gala that's going to be taking place next month, September 14th. This is going to be at the Nixon Library in Yorba Linda. This is going to be an amazing event. So if you have not already got your tickets, we've got limited time left to be able to get those tickets. So there's sponsorships available. There's some tickets available. You really need to go onto the Our Watch website now before it's too late. So I'm just giving you that reminder, that warning. Almost out of time for that, but this is going to be such a fun event. The food is going to be awesome. The entertainment is going to be awesome. And the speakers, I mean, gosh, where else can you see locally in one night Eric Metaxas and James O'Keefe? So this is the place to do it, and we hope that you can all be there. So just a reminder, the time is running out to get those tickets and to sponsor those tables. You can do all that and find out all the information that you need to know at ourwatch.com. And now, you are all here to hear from General Flynn, aren't you? Okay. We are very blessed to have him in the house tonight. And what a way to be able to send off Wednesday Night Live. And so, just a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure that you're liking and following on all the social media sites, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, Twitter, and also, or what else are we on? True Social, yes. Another important one. So like and subscribe and follow in all those places. And also wanted to tell you, we did pray for the offering. We got the offering going around. Okay, I feel like I'm forgetting something. But I'm not going to forget this. So you guys ready to get on with the program tonight? All right. So for the last time, say it with me. It's time to sit back, relax, enjoy Wednesday Night Live.
He's heard it all before. You're a pastor. You're not supposed to get political. You shouldn't be talking about these issues, so just stay out of politics and stick to preaching the gospel. Life, marriage, sexuality, borders, ethnicity, these things aren't political. They're biblical. God's word has much to say about the culture we're living in. This is Our Watch with Tim Thompson.
Well, hey, good evening, everybody. It is so good to be with you guys tonight. I want to say hello to everybody that is tuned in online. Welcome to Our Watch. I am Tim Thompson. I'm very glad to have you with us tonight and really excited about our guests. Obviously, you guys are as well. And, like Pastor Simon was saying, this is our last Wednesday night here in this building because we are, as a church, this is a separate, just so everybody knows, this is the building that 412 Church has been doing church in. Our Watch is a separate ministry from 412 Church, and 412 Church is going to be moving. So this was our last Wednesday night here, and what better way to close out all the Wednesday night lives that we've been doing now for several years with such a great guest tonight. So excited to bring him out in a moment. But before we do that, I want to just let you guys know a praise report, a victory that was won, I would say last night, but it wasn't last night. It was 1 o'clock this morning, and I know because I was there. The school board in Temecula, sounds like most of you already know, but some of you might be like, what are they cheering for? And maybe you're watching online, you don't know what's going on, but here in Temecula Valley, the school board voted 3-2 to install a policy at the district that would require teachers and staff at the school to notify a parent within 72 hours if a child attempts to change their gender at school. So we are very happy about that. Very, very happy. We want to just say a great thanks to Dr. Joseph Komrosky, Jen Wiersma, Danny Gonzalez. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. They couldn't be here today. They have so much on their plate as well. And like I said, the school board meeting went till well after 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was a rough night, and I'm just so grateful for those three. As far as the other two, I've got something to say to them as well. I am so glad that you voted the way we knew you would vote. I'm so glad because what I'm going to do is take your vote, that video of you voting against parents' rights. I'm going to take that, I'm just going to throw that on a loop. And you don't know it, but last night or this morning early, you lost the election in 2024. So congratulations. It is a beautiful thing to watch somebody show you who they really are. They were adamant that parents should not have the right to know. Their attitude is parents are dangerous to the kids, and that somehow they need to keep this kind of information away from parents. And one of them, Steve Schwartz, had the audacity to say that this policy would be okay if he was able to add into it a child's right to opt out of it. I mean, where does this guy come up with this stuff? He's delusional, and it's weird that anybody ever elected this guy to school board. Well, the American public is awake. The people in Temecula Valley are awake. There is no way a man like Steve Schwartz is going to end up on the school board come 2024. We are in the fight of our lives here in California. I've said this before, I'll say it one more time. I really firmly believe that we are seeing a revival taking place. I believe that God's people are waking up. I believe they're getting activated into the culture, and they're taking back the public square. And it's a fight, like I said, the fight of our lifetime. We have never had to fight the way we're fighting right now, but we are in the fight. We are going to continue to show them what it means to stand for truth and righteousness. And one more thing, before I bring out our guest this evening, I just want to thank publicly Assemblyman Bill Asaley, who's here tonight. Thank you so much. You are doing for this culture what is so desperately needed. You are finding a shrewd way to get policies like your bill, and many of you might know this, but he authored a bill that did what we're talking about tonight, that would put power in the hands of the parents. It would involve parents in the decision-making for their kids. He wrote the bill, and it just got shut down right away. So he said, you know what? I don't need the left-leaning supermajority in California. I don't need them to pass this. What we need to do is get this into the hand of the local school districts, get them to adopt it as policy, because we have a little thing in a constitutional republic called local control. So he did that, and I want to thank you for doing that. So it's exciting times, and we want to know more about the times that we are living in, and I think we've got a great guest to do that this evening. You all know him, and you clearly love him. Please welcome out General Michael Flynn.
I want to say something before we get going, because growing up in churches and then working for priests. I'm a Catholic, so working for priests in the military, we never let anybody sit in the overflow room. What the priest would do is he would say, "Move over." Right? Move over, and he would get everybody into the church. So I'm glad that we only have like a mom and a baby in there tonight, right? So that's okay. She's okay. She actually can come out here if you want to come out here. You got a little almost 2-year-old there with you, but now always try to get this is our community, right? This is how we get together, right? And you get to know each other, okay? That's just what this is all about. People, and he would also have guys, mainly guys, standing at the back door. So after communion, everybody would want to sneak out, right? No, not in this guy's church. So don't anybody be trying to sneak out here, okay? Don't anybody be trying to sneak out, right? I'm pointing at her. All right. Well, I don't know what the format is here, but I'm only here for a little bit of time, okay? And I appreciate Pastor Tim and everybody being here, and Peter and Lisa. Thank you guys so much for having us at your house a little earlier. So there's always an itinerary and a format, but I'm not going to follow it. I'm not going to follow it, and I'm sorry about that, and that's okay. Forgive me. You're a pastor, and I'll give it here to you in a second. But I need people to understand. We need to understand. I mean, what you're doing and why I'm out here, because I saw Temecula in the national news, right? And I have this phrase I use, and I say, local action equals national impact, right?
Yep.
And so you guys resonate with that. I mean, this is a county, and we have about, we have a little over 3,100 counties. We have about 177 precincts, 177,000 precincts in this country. And we have an election system that's completely broken, okay? It's not just California, and this, I come out to California as often as I can. It's not as easy because of just distances and other places in the country that frankly need a lot more help. As much as you guys think you need a lot of help, but I come out here. I've been up to Washington, and I've been up to Oregon, and I tell the people that when I show up, I'm here because we are not going to give up on these American citizens. Okay, you, and because we can't. We probably have, let's just say 14 months. We have about 14 months left before the country potentially takes a really, really dramatic turn. And I mean a dramatic turn. That turn, it'll be like an aircraft carrier. I met somebody back there in the Navy. If you've ever been on an aircraft carrier, I've been on a few. It takes a long time to turn. But once we begin to turn, you can't get an aircraft carrier to turn back the other way until it takes a couple, it actually takes miles and miles and miles. So the metaphor is that, it could be 100 years. It could be 1,000 years. Okay, once this thing turns, this thing called the United States of America turns towards socialism, or worse, Marxism, communism, globalism. All right, and I'll answer any questions that you have tonight. Any questions, and I'm not going to take any statements. If you start making a statement when you're given the mic to ask a question, I'll cut you off at the knees. Okay, just questions, because we got too much to go. Not enough time, and a lot of people, others will have maybe that same question, right? So this is a really, it can be actually for some, it's a frightening time. And I will tell you that as I go around the country, I get really two sentiments. And the sentiments that I get are, I'm afraid of my government. Okay, I'm afraid of my government. People come up to me and tell me that. What has happened to our government? I'm afraid of what I see. And then the second one is, what do I do? What can I do? What can I do? And everybody always asks me that, what can I do? And like I said, I use that phrase, but what does that phrase mean? It means, I don't know where Jessica, it means that when you're a teacher and you stand up for your religious beliefs, and you say, for my religious beliefs, I can't do these things. And they turn around and they fire you. Then you stand there and you have, that's like a moment of pride. You stand there and say, look, I believe so much in my faith. Or a doctor, and we work with a lot of doctors around the country, a lot of some of the best in the world that have been fired from their hospitals. Okay, fired from their hospitals because they're not towing the line for the big pharmaceutical industries. Okay, Pfizer and Moderna. If you're watching, if you watch the indicators of these companies, and all of a sudden we're getting ready to go into a potentially another variant of COVID, right? Whatever they call it, EV5 or something like that, right? The White House just put out another statement today about how basically it's about things that we should expect to happen here. And one of their White House goals is 100% globally vaccinated. It's the fourth goal in the White House statement today. 100% globally vaccinated. I'll tell you, and I've been called every name in the book. I'm not anti-vax. Ask anybody that's ever served in the military for a couple of months. I've been like a pincushion in the military, But as soon as I got out of the military, guess what I never got? I never got the flu. Because every time you get the flu shot, Christ, your entire battalion, your entire unit would get the flu. Everybody would be sick. That takes one shot where you look around and you go, man, why is everybody sick? Because the damn shot gave you it's the virus that they stick into your body. I've studied this stuff, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional, but I've looked at the entire issue. I have some terrific doctors who are part of our team. And, Peter McCullough is one, Simone Gold is another, Malone is another, there's some others. Corey is another. Things like ivermectin, right? The government just said that that's a great remedy for all this stuff, right? But before they're calling it, horse paste and stuff, right? The comedians at night. All these things. And we say to ourselves, how can our country get this way? And it seems like it happened so fast. Well, one of the things that I have had the privilege of studying in my life is the history of the world, okay, as well as American history. And when you study things like the rise and fall of nation states, you look at nation states because, why? Because we are opposed to other nation states on the planet, especially in the field that I was in. Even as a young officer, a third of my career was to stand against the Soviet hordes on the plains of Europe, right? And here we are. I mean, well, I don't know what you're clapping for. What are you clapping for? You want me to stand there against the Soviet hordes? Well, my point is that we face enemies on the planet. Okay? In the history of the world, have you ever run into anybody from the Athenian Empire? No. Have you ever used the word Byzantine? Yeah, probably not, but Byzantine it's the oldest empire in the history of the world. It doesn't exist anymore. The British Empire, which basically ended at the turn of the last century, roughly around 1908, if you want to put a year on it. Right? It ended. The British Empire, right? The sun never sets on the British Empire. It's a very famous phrase. The British, the England, the United Kingdom, they can barely put together an army today. They have a decent navy. They've got some good people. They definitely have some great special operations forces, but they can barely put together an army. They can barely field an army. And 100 years ago, a little over 100 years ago, they were the world empire. They were the superpower of the planet. Name a country on the planet, and they probably dominated it, or it was colonialized, right? And their arrogance, the British Empire's arrogance, is what was part of their downfall. Their arrogance as a global, as a colonial empire. Their arrogance was their downfall. So here in America, so the point is that there's this rise and fall of nation states. And for me, I always study things like what are called indicators and warnings, right? Indicators and warnings. And you do this on the battlefield. What are the indicators and warnings that are going to tell you which direction the enemy is going to approach you at? And when you take it to the really high-end geostrategic level, it's like, what will the Russians do in Europe? Or how much longer do the Chinese have to last as a country? How long does the United States of America have to last? We're at about 250 years right now. Okay? Do we have the sustainability to continue on as a beautiful experiment in democracy called a constitutional republic? And if I sort of use a little bit of hyperbole and I say that the British Empire generally collapsed because of their arrogance, and I believe that's a part of it. There are other components. So if the American empire collapses, why do we collapse? I believe that we collapse because we're lazy, we got lazy, and we got very apathetic. Very apathetic. And we got very lazy and very apathetic about our belief in the founding principles of this nation. And the founding principles of this nation were built on Judeo-Christian principles and values.
Right.
And Tim will talk to you all day long about which verse and which parable and all that kind of stuff. And I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about it. I'm not one to wear my faith on my sleeve. I like to joke about it. I like to kid about it because I had a tough upbringing, and when I was in the military, I would always volunteer at the churches because nobody else would. And it's in the Army you never volunteer for anything, but and the first time it was always some priest grabbing me going, "Hey, what's your name?" And if you had your name tag on Flynn, get up here. And all of a sudden you get caught up in that cycle of, man, now I got a lecture every Sunday, But the point is that we as American citizens for decades, and I'm going to stand up. My mother and my father was a World War II and a Korean War veteran. Okay? And my parents, and I'm one of 9 children. My parents, right, and they're tough Irish stock. My parents gave my 9 brothers and sisters, and I'm right in the middle, they gave my 9 brothers and sisters this beautiful country on a silver platter. And they said, never stop learning and never violate the golden rule, which is to treat others like you like to be treated. That's it. Simple. Like I was talking to children the other day, And I'm going to tell you this because the simple rules are still valid. You say thank you. You say yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, sir. No, sir. Please. Simple things. I mean, I applaud what you guys are fighting for here. But it's absolutely insane that we have to wait, whatever it is, 72 hours, 96 hours to inform a parent. I mean, I kidded to my buddy Vic out in the other room. I said, and it would have been 2 seconds in my house, right? But we're here. And you have to say, how do we ever get here? I mean, this is nuts. This is nuts, California. This is nuts, Biden. But see, he doesn't even know. He's probably in bed right now, right? So, by the way, Trump is talking to Tucker right now. He's got almost, I think they have over, he's got over 80, there's over 80 million viewers as of now, as of me coming up on this stage, And then then there's the losers debate, right? The losers debate. So anyway, so how do we get here, and then what do we do about it? What do we do about it? Okay, and I apologize, Tim, but I got my back to you, and I'm taking over your platform here. But you already said that you're not going to have this platform much longer because you're moving into what, a bigger church?
Yeah.
See, so he's done good. He's done good.
You're basically
right?
like a pastor. You say,
Yeah.
I'm going to take a couple minutes.
No. This is like we are in a moment of grave risk. Mm-hmm. Grave, like the grave you go into when it's all done. Grave risk is where this country is at. Across the nation. Okay? So we should allow fear to enter our lives. Fear is an emotion that you can never get rid of. Ever. But what you can do is you can control it. And we have to control that fear. Because people are like, what do I do? I don't know. And then everybody, all the politicians, right? I mean, we were talking about politicians earlier. Don't be a politician all your life. All people are afraid to have somebody write a nasty article about them. Tell me about it. Right? Right? I mean, nobody wants, and we were chatting earlier about businesses. If you're a business person, you own a business, a small business. I mean, first of all, this administration really, and through COVID, not just this administration, but through COVID, purposely, intentionally, we destroyed the small business community. There are over almost 40%. It's definitely 30% of the small businesses that we had are not in business anymore. Right. And that's purposely done. The strength, the fabric, the foundation of the economy in this country has been small businesses for the existence of this country. Right? And then you have all these big corporations, but they feed, we feed from those small businesses because most people are out there working them. So this is intentional. This is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. This is intentional. It's been going on for a long, long time. People always ask me, if you ever went back into government, what would be the first thing you do? And typically they, with me, they think, go shut down the FBI or go take apart the DOJ. No. I would thank everybody in the Department of Education for their service, and I'd tell them, do not report to work tomorrow. Okay? And I mean that. So for the live stream, or anybody that's got their little cameras out there, right? Or anybody that's worried about having a bad article written about them or a lousy headline. You know what my mom used to say? She used to say, sticks and stones may break my bones.
Words will never hurt
me.
me.
Everybody knows it. How come? You all have the same mom. Right? Or you heard her yelling at me. Very, very serious time that we are in. A very serious time. And I want to just keep reminding you that this is what this is about. So I'm blessed to be here. because it allows me to come in, and touch a community, and whether you want to hear it or not. But when I leave, I'll get up tomorrow morning. We're going to drive up to Nevada, spend a couple of days up in Nevada with a lot of people. We have about 6,000 people coming in on Friday, and that's a good. But even the city of the Sin City, where that holds satanic conventions, will not let our Reawaken America tour. They won't allow us in Las Vegas. It's unbelievable. So we have to go outside of Vegas to North Vegas. And we found a great patriot who owns a nice ranch out there. And we're going to put up a big old shell tent with air conditioners and all the craziness, because we are not going to give up. Okay? And we're not going to give up. So when we talk about fighting and we talk about what it is that we need to be doing in this country, you have to fight. Now, I say that, and I got the FBI visiting me. You're a domestic terrorist. You're inciting, violence. MSNBC, I'm going to not get Irish on you here, but MSNBC, someone on MSNBC the other night says, General Flynn's out there inciting violence wherever he goes. And I'm like, really? All I want to do is overturn a few school boards, right? And that means that's not boards like as in boards, but actually, the duly elected people that actually sit on a school board. You get it, right? But these people are nuts. They are insane. They're insane. I mean, now, drag queen hour. Or you guys out here have the, I think it's the Sisters of Indulgence up at the Dodger Stadium. Yeah, I know. A group that I help out is called Catholics for Catholics, and they organized a big old rally up there to go against them. You know what? I got a picture the other day, 2 days ago, from one of the guys in the organization. Hurricane Hillary came through, right? Hurricane Hillary. And Dodger Stadium was damned. The whole field was underwater, And then my wife is Portuguese. My wife is Portuguese, and her father used to say vodka ga. Any Portuguese in here? Thank God that you don't know. Thank God. Okay, that's good. It's like this, right? To the L.A. Dodgers and the Sisters of Indulgence. That's a partial Italian-Irish salute. Okay? Because this is the Italian and the Irish, give you the middle finger. Right? I like the kid because it's so crazy. It's so drag queen hour. Now, if you're an adult, you want to go to drag queen hour at the local, VFW, be my guest. Right? Or whatever. But if you're going to bring drag queen hour into elementary school, so the first thing that comes to that hits me is not the drag queen hour, because I'm like, it's disgusting. But I just can't get past a parent. And we've seen plenty of it. We've seen plenty of parents. They're sitting there laughing with their little babies. That's some guy who's dressed like a woman, and he ain't that good looking, and he's sitting there, and he's got, there's all this stuff out. I mean, I'm like, and I'm looking at that, and I look past that, and I'm looking around in these videos that are sent to me, or these things that we get involved in, and I'm looking at a mother or a father who's got their child sitting there, and I'm like, what is going through your head? Maybe I grew up in a different era, but I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that, the majority of people look at these things and they go, this is not right. And you're a young man with the baseball hat on, right? Good for you. I'm glad you're here. Is this forced family fun for you? Your mom make you come tonight? Okay, well, that's okay. That's good. I'm glad. I look around to see, I like young people because, you know what? That young man, how old are you, son? 17 years old, That kid, my mother used to say, the worst time to be a teenager, or worst time in life was to be a teenager. And she would tell me that when I was a teenager. Right? But what we do, and if the young lady's still out there with her almost 2-year-old, what we do, and most of the people that are in here are about my age, maybe, and then maybe there's a few older, but what we do is for that young man and that baby, right? And a couple of people that are maybe like old enough to be my children in here. There's a few. My generation, and I'm 60, I'm going to turn 65 this year. My generation screwed this country up. Like I said, my father and my mother worked their tails off. Okay? My father retired from the Army as a sergeant. And I actually have another brother in the Army. He's actually a 4-star in charge of all Army forces in the Pacific right now. And I know he's dealing with this thing in Lahaina. And it's horrific. So they gave us, like I said, they gave us this beautiful country on a silver platter. And then what did my generation do? Well, let's see. We worked hard. We did well. You know, everybody, you know, you got problems here and there, right? But over the lifetime that we've had, a great lifetime, country exploded. You know, we're the strongest country on the planet. We got all this wonderful stuff. And we forgot a couple of things, though, right? We took our faith for granted. We took our future for granted. So I cannot live. I have children and grandchildren. I will not live and turn this country over as a piece of dried up old wood to my children nor my grandchildren. I won't do it. I won't do it. And that's my commitment to you. Okay? That's my commitment to you in a general sense. When I think about the things that we are involved in, and another couple of young kids in the back there, so that's good. You know, you're bringing we've got to bring these kids to these things, and whether they like it or not, right? Whether they like it or not, because they have to know, and they have to hear it. And they have to, you got to bring them into the churches. I mean, you have to. Our apathy towards our faith, right? And again, you're looking at an individual who has been called every name in the book, unimaginable things, still even to today. Just tried to do a great event up in Oklahoma, beautiful event. A lot of children from kindergarten all the way up through their undergraduate program at this nice little college in Oklahoma, and then a whole bunch of the people from the community to try to, get them to understand, but mainly dealing with these beautiful children. And, of course, the media just writes these nasty articles, right? And, again, it's like we cannot let that affect us. Do not fall prey to your own fears. Okay? Everybody, especially the young kids, and kids understand this, but you should understand this. If you do not define yourself, you get up in the morning, you're all by yourself, you don't got your makeup on, you haven't brushed your teeth, you're looking in the mirror, all by yourself, and it's like, man, must have had a rough night. Must have been at Pastor Tim's church. Right? But when you're by yourself, you know who you are. You know exactly who you are. You define yourself. As soon as you let somebody else define you, you've lost. And you are less of a person than you can be. I used to tell people in the military when I'd bring them in, I'd talk to them, either I was going to give somebody an ass chewing, or I was going to counsel them, or I was going to reward them. I always talk to people about their potential. How can we maximize your potential? Because I would look at somebody and I'd say, okay, you're 33 years old, or you're 36 years old, or whatever, and you got this background, and you've done this, you've been through all these different gates in life, in terms of your experience. And then I would say, well, what do you want to do? Somebody would be like a big shot colonel or something, or a big shot sergeant major in the Army, or others who I've met in civilian life. And they look at me like, well, I am doing what I wanted to do. And I'd say, really? Is this really what you want to do? Is this what your purpose in life is? And if they said, yep, this is exactly what I wanted to do, and I feel like I'm doing the best of my ability, and okay, how are you helping others? How are you helping your community? How are you helping your church? How are you helping your children? Whatever. I can go down that list of questions. And the answers are generally, well, I kind of do this. And they start to realize, geez, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe my purpose in life is not well thought out. Maybe my purpose in life is not well thought out. Well, America, our purpose as a country is not well thought out. Not right now. So the only way, and I tend to put it like this, like the destiny of America is only going to be decided by you. By you individually, by you here in this great little town, by you here in this county. People like me, we kind of ebb and flow. I'm going to flow out of here tomorrow, and it's like you're not going to have me standing there constantly telling you, this is what you got to do. Okay, here's how we're going to organize. We're going to go do this. We're going to, we got to show up to this board meeting. We got to, I said to earlier when we were eating dinner, I said that, the true measure of your town, okay, true measure of your town is who shows up on a rainy night to a school board hearing a couple of months from now, right? It's a lousy night. Somebody else will go. I won't go, okay? I mean, only a couple of years ago, there was only like nobody showing up to school boards, okay? And then all of a sudden we started to hear and started to show, and we don't have a book, but yeah, here's a beautiful book right here, okay? Beautiful book. So we're showing a book in the school boards, and the cameras couldn't show it. The cameras couldn't show it, right? Am I kidding? I mean, I'm not making this up. The cameras couldn't show what was on the pages of the book. And the book was already in the elementary school. The kids were already learning it. Kids were already learning this stuff. And you say to yourself, how do we do this? And I don't know if these ladies are here tonight. I forget who told me, but maybe it was Jeremy. There was some ladies, some gals that are activists here, and you keep going to the library and you keep taking the book out. Am I busting you? I'm probably busting you.
Where's Ann?
Huh?
Where's Ann?
Yeah.
Is she here?
Yeah.
There she is,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah. Yeah. See? You see? That's good. No, that's good. I mean, probably now, but but that's the kind. But see, that's like on a battlefield. On the battlefield, everybody has a task. Okay, and you cannot. We do not. And I think Tim said this earlier, or maybe we were talking about it earlier, or maybe I just dreamed it. But we don't march toward victory. Okay, we are victorious. And we stand on that ground, okay? And that's kind of what your example is. You've already declared victory, and you're just cleaning up around you. I'm on the moral high ground. I maintain the moral high ground, and that's what we have to do. We have to maintain the moral high ground in everything that we do, because what is the opposite of that? Immoral. Okay? So either you're on the moral high ground or you're on the immoral high ground. Right? You're either on the good side or you're on what? The bad side. I mean, it's that easy. It's that easy. It's that easy of a choice. It's that easy of a choice. And we can talk about all the problems, all the illegal invasion, the drug problems on our streets, the rising crime. I mean, interest rates are like at 9 to 11% right now. It's insane. The price of a gallon of gas, the cost of a loaf of bread, all these different things, all these problems. We got our country, our government just sent $23 billion over to Ukraine last week. And we're going to give these poor people of Lahaina $700. I mean, that's right. That's what they're going to do. I mean, what's good there? Nothing. So it's like, it's like a line. You draw a line, and on one side is everything that's good, right? Think about in terms of opposites. And on the other side is everything that's bad, right? Like the opposite, I'm on the good side. So the opposite of up, down, right? And even saying down, man, it's down. It's like Debbie Downer, right? But up, we're going to move up. We're going to stand up. We're going to speak up, right? We're going to step up. Okay, what's the opposite of positive? Negative. Okay, if you get a negative, it's like getting a no. It's a negative. It's a negative in our lives. Positive. I want to be positive. I want to be around positive people. I want people who say yes. I want people who stand up there and say, yes, this is what I want to do. What's the opposite of Jesus? Satan. You think Satan exists? You're damn right he exists. Okay? The sobering reality is that evil exists. It exists. Okay? So I'm not up here preaching to you. I'm up here pleading to you. Pleading. Because each of you has a talent, and you don't know it. You learn your talent, and you're exploiting it. Each of us has a talent, and sometimes the talent may only be to pray. Yeah, that may be it. So, what can you do? Well, I'll form a team. We'll go to church every day, or we'll meet at some hall or something, and we'll pray. It's great. I'm a product of prayer. And I believe that prayer is the most powerful weapon system known to man. Mm-hmm. Seriously. But other people have other talents, right? Some people are really good on a phone. Some people are really good typing or on a computer. Some people are really good writers. Some people are very good speakers. Some people know how to do the books. Some people know how to organize. Some people know how to lead. Some people know how to follow well. Okay, meaning, I really don't know how to do that. If you teach me this, then I'll go do it. I'll set up the chairs, because we are facing a time where the bad side of the line is well funded, well resourced, and it's not easy. When we're up against, literally millions and billions of dollars to sort of our side, you know what it is? It's a lot of glazed donuts and RC Cola, okay? And maybe some black coffee, and a lot of volunteers, and a lot of tears, and a lot of emotion. And that's okay, because you know what? We do have one very positive things, and we have the numbers. I guarantee we're the majority in this country. We really are. A couple of numbers. President, and I talked a little bit about this earlier to some folks. Presidential races, which is typically the highest turnout for elections, we still have 25% of people who can vote, who are registered to vote, stay at home. So only 75% of the people who can vote, who are registered to vote, go and vote, even for President of the United States of America. Okay? Inside of that vote, about 67% of that vote are Christians. About 67% inside of the voting populace are Christians. Inside of the Christian community, the largest voting bloc in this country are Catholics. I don't know if there's any Catholics in here. There's one right here. But it doesn't matter. But that tells you something. And you know what? I can tell you, Catholics, about 50-50, they vote Democrat and Republican. I'm purposely and specifically, I'm bringing this up because that's a target audience not just Catholics, but that 35 to 40 million people that are, if you drew a line in the middle and you said, these are all the people on the right, Republicans, conservatives, and all these people on the left are these, lefty Marxist Democrats that maybe, old school Democrats, right? There's about 35 to 40 million that are left of that line that I know in that number, and I'll bet you it's probably 90%, it's probably 90% love this country. And we got to go embrace them. You've got to go embrace them. You've got to go find them. They're in your church. Okay? They're in your church. You may not think so. You may not think so. They're definitely in the churches. They're definitely in the churches. If we could harness the energy of the religious community in this country, and this is when the left goes crazy on me, and they call me, white Christian national fat, Hitler or whatever other name they want to call me. I care less. I care less. Because for me, it's not about being a Democrat or a Republican. Because like I said earlier, if you paid real close attention, there's two things going on here. There's either this thing called Americanism, okay, which is basically loving your country, loving this country that's a democracy, right? We are formed as a constitutional republic with something called a Constitution, Declaration of Independence and Bill of Rights, right? Or you're on the other side and you're one of this group from the globalist side. And the globalists, they exist. There's the World Economic Forum, there's the World Trade Organization, the World Health Organization, the World Bank. That this week, and I'm paying very close attention to this, and many of you may not even know what I'm about to say, but there's an organization called BRICS. How many of you know what the BRICS is? Okay, good. That's really good. That actually is heartening. BRICS is an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So 4 of those are communist. 1 is a hardcore Marxist state. All right? So those 5 countries represent 47% of the world's population. Those 5 countries, 47% of the world's population. They're meeting this week in South Africa. It's the first time they've met since pre-COVID days. So it's a very important meeting. And it just so happens that they have these backbenchers. We call them backbenchers. So the table will consist of these 5 countries, but there's going to be some backbenchers, meaning other countries are going to show up to look underneath the rug to see if they want to become part of it. And they've been invited. Okay, the other countries represent about another 10 countries that represents about 75% of the world's population that are now, and I call it a global alliance, that are now starting to look at the United States of America, not now, but certainly in the last couple of years, starting to look at the United States of America and going, you know what, I don't think the United States is going to make it. So we're going to align ourselves with this group. And when we talk about, if you really study the BRICS and this alliance, people will go, it's an economic alliance. It's much more than that. It's much more than that. It's economic, it's military, it's philosophically and ideologically together. And I'm not like talking about these nations, these nation states, because I want to go to war with them or want to fight them. My first thing is I want to end these endless wars that we are in. Big time. I mean, this is insane what we're doing over in Europe. I mean, it's just, and that was after this month, a week ago, 2 years ago, right? 1 week, 2 years ago, we surrendered and retreated and left Americans behind enemy lines in Afghanistan, right? I mean, 20 years of war. You think that we can quickly just snap our fingers and our military is going to, on a flip of a switch, is going to be ready to go fight in Europe? Or be ready to go fight over in the Pacific against the Chinese if they decide to invade Taiwan? And I say, why should they invade Taiwan? They damn near own it. Our country has a cancer, okay? I'm going to finish it with this because I know I'm dragging on. It's almost 8, and I'll take time for questions, many questions, and I'll get to them quickly. Our country has a cancer. And I actually personally think, because I know our founders, I've studied them, I've read the Federalist Papers, I've read some of their diaries, I've read some of their letters to their spouses or to their children, in my studies, right? In my studying our country, because I am my field that I chose to be was a warrior, right? And warfare sadly, is an expertise that I have developed. But in order to develop an expertise in warfare, you have to understand a whole range of issues, especially the higher up you go in the particular jobs that I had. But we have a cancer, and that cancer was identified early on by our founders, and it was called the political class. Okay, and they all talked about it. We don't want to have a political class formed in our country, because what happens is you create something that this type of republic and this type of idea, this cause that we have called America, it's not going to, they're not going to sync well, right? SYNC. They're not going to synchronize well with each other, especially if your political class, you look at somebody, and I've known a lot of these people in my time, and you ask somebody, well, you're the Speaker of the House, not the current one, not a fan, but another speaker who I got to know. Okay, he got out of being the speaker and he became the head lobbyist for the marijuana industry. How about that? Okay, a Republican. And I looked at his background. He started as an intern. Started as an intern in Washington, D.C. Never held a job in his life other than being a politician, and he rose all the way up to being the Speaker of the House. That's a cancer. And people in Washington will go, oh, he's a great guy, he's a wonderful guy, he's this and that. Of course he's wonderful in Washington. He padded your pockets. But it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's our fault. Okay, this is why I say we're apathetic and we're lazy. We've been apathetic and we've been lazy. And you can, and whatever you want to think, doesn't matter to me. Because it's supposed to be us, right? We the people are the ones that are supposed to go out there and hustle and vote and vote and vote and vote for years and pay attention and watch the system. Watch these people. And if we don't like them, right, the old phrase, throw the bums out. Throw the bums out. Well, now we're in a place where I'm not so sure we can throw the bums out. Okay? And so we're doing a lot of things around the country with elections. We have the precinctstrategy.com. We have Audit the Vote. We've got all kinds of people. We just did a great event with Mike Lindell in Missouri, where he's got some capabilities that we're looking at to actually put at every precinct. I mean, hey, Mike Lindell, he's the guy in your bathroom, right? He's a great friend, but he's funny. But Mike Lindell he knows what having nothing means. If you ever read his book, the stories of his unbelievable life. And he's willing to give everything up, as many of us are. Because we're at a place where, believe me, they may not come after you right away, but I fully expect them. I fully expect them to knock on my door at some point in time if it's like things don't go the way we want them in 2024. We don't get a really, really strong leader, and I'm all for Trump, because as I look at this thing and I say, man, we need a strong leader. And this is, I'm gonna be interested in watching tonight. I'll watch the replay of Tucker, because I know I talked to Tucker this morning. Okay, he's a great friend of mine, and I know he ain't gonna be easy on Trump. So, Trump's a tough guy. But I'm interested to see that interview. The debate that the other losers are at, I could care less. Could care less. And I don't mind calling them that. I don't mind calling them that, because none of them, and you listen to these people, all of them, and I know them all. Or I certainly like, watching Ramaswamy, right? I mean, exceptional speaker. But when you look at a resume, it is razor thin. Okay, and Mark Levin just took him to school the other day on foreign policy. If you're paying any attention to Mark Levin. Okay, I got 801, and I will take some questions. Okay.
Well, before we do that, I've got questions for you still.
No, what do you got? What do you got?
I've got my.
You get them all the time.
I got a whole bunch of questions for you.
Are they from these people?
They're from me.
Oh.
Come on.
All right, I'll let you have one.
All right.
I'll let you have one. Go ahead.
I want to know, what is Obama doing right now?
Yeah, Obama. Obama is probably, forget the name of the street there in Washington, D.C. You know, he's definitely not out in Hawaii, which is where he really should be if he was a leader. Obama, you know, really the question you're asking is, you know, is Obama in charge of the country? And so my answer is yes. And when you look at the people, inside of the government that are working inside of the Biden administration in really key places, they're not holdovers, they're actually plants, you know, that are put in there. And we can't kid ourselves by, you know, the very famous lines that, you know, Obama says, I would love to have a third term, I just wouldn't want to have all the headaches, or the other one that he said, and he meant it. He meant it. You know, I want to fundamentally, transfer or change America, right? And he meant it, and he did it. He actually did it. I mean, you know, and I was asked a question the other night about Obama, and you know, I was in the military at the time, and you know, hope and change, and I really didn't pay any attention really to presidents, other than the fact that they were my chain of command, and I looked at my president as a commander-in-chief. Didn't make any difference, and I don't care if they were purple with pink polka dots. You know, I'm deployed at that time, to Afghanistan that particular year, and so I didn't really pay any attention other than, yeah, it's hope and change. Hey, this is really good. I felt good. I have to tell you, I felt good. Like, well, I'm in Afghanistan, but I felt good. Hey, man, I felt like, hey, the American people, this is great. This is a good thing. And instead of taking the community of color, and the family unit in the African American community, which would have been if I were in his shoes, that would have been my job number one, and really going in and honing in on the family unit of the black community and looking at those children, looking at those babies, looking at the men, because it is the women in the African American community, and then all communities of color, and honing in on families, building up families, and being a great example of somebody with a picture-perfect family. He didn't do it. He did not do that. And that would have been, to me, if I were advising him, that would have been something I would have advised him strongly to do, because he would have been the perfect guy to do it, right? I mean, a mixed race child, mother's white, father's black. I mean, you know, he's got the picture perfect family, young, articulate. You know, go into those communities and let's build these people up. Let's build up these communities. So, sorry, Barack, and I tag him every so often on Twitter. If you follow me on Twitter, I tag Barack Obama all the time and ask him questions, and he's never answered me yet. You know, because he's only a man. Okay? Like many of us, right? Like all of us. He's not some superhuman like they make him out to be. So, and you know, because when you look at Uncle Joe, you can't. I mean, did you see him in Lahaina in his speech the other day, talking about his cat? Huh? He was there. I mean, but it was, you know, I hate to, because it was sad. It was really, really sad. And the world is watching that individual all the time. Not like 99% of the time, 100% of the time. The world watches the President of the United States every time they speak, move, sit, stand, or fall. Okay? All right, that's your last question. I'm going to go way in the back. I'll start way in the back. No, way in the back. Yes, sir. And then I'm going to move around here a little bit.
Thank you, General.
Questions too. Statements?
Yes, sir. Thank you, General. I have a question. You mentioned in the beginning about our country headed towards communism, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
What are, if any, the legal or constitutional mechanisms in place to protect us from that? What can we do constitutionally?
So the 10th Amendment, we haven't had a governor yet that has stood up. Not one governor. You know where they're standing up? They're all standing up on that losers panel tonight, right? They're all allowing their egos to get in their way. The founders of this country, when they had the original 13 colonies and they created the first 13 states, they gave a whole bunch of rights to the states because the states sat there during that convention and they argued. They said, well, look, we don't want a monarch, right? We don't want a king. Because at that time, we hadn't really, there was no real big decision yet whether Washington was going to be a king or a president. So he hadn't really decided. So they gave states all these rights to protect their own borders. You know that a governor can shut their borders down, completely shut their borders down, and put law enforcement or deputize citizens at every single entry point of a state and not allow anybody unless they can prove that they are a citizen of the country, if they want. It doesn't have to be just somebody at the border. It can be Kansas. So there's rights that states have and authorities that governors have, and I haven't seen any of them use it. I mean, you know that we haven't had one governor, not one sitting governor, not one, has said even remotely that maybe, just maybe, the 2020 election might have been a little bit rigged. Right? Not one governor. And we had a ton of evidence. There's a ton of evidence. So yes, the answer is yes. They have a lot of authority. They have constitutional authority. And I would love to be the governor of California. Man, all right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, right here. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes?
So I saw
Put it right up to your mouth. There you go.
I saw an interview of you the other day talking about a possible black swan event that could prevent the 2024 election.
Yeah.
And I was hoping you could maybe extend on what that event could be.
Yeah. So would you mind opening that bottle of water up for me? Thank you, sir. So black swan, thank you. Black swan events are events that, there's things that are unimaginable. You don't think about they're ever going to happen. In California, a black swan event would not be a hurricane or would not be what do you have, earthquakes out here all the time, right? You just had one in Los Angeles, north of Los Angeles, 5.5, right? So that would not be a black swan event in this state because they happen all too often. A black swan event would be like kind of what we went through with COVID. Okay, that was kind of a black swan event, right? A black swan event would be the firing of a nuclear missile in the Middle East or in Europe. Now, is it something that we expect or it could happen? Yes, it could happen. Is it in a scenario? Possibly. Can we imagine somebody ever firing a nuclear weapon? We can't. We can't imagine it because, if you understand what we did in World War II in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, those were atom bombs, okay? But we hear these people talking about tactical nuclear weapons like they're only going to make a little bit of a mess right here. One of those tactical nuclear weapons is 10 to 20 times more powerful than the bombs we dropped in Japan. So that would be a black swan. Other black swans are things that could be a really severe economic crisis, a really severe one where we just, everything shuts down. A black swan event just happened in Lahaina. Okay, just happened in Lahaina. That's definitely a black swan event because you would have thought that people would have turned the water on, had the emergency alarm, the alarm system that was actually, it's been put in and used and tested for years since the days of Pearl Harbor, all over the islands. I served 3 years out in the 25th Infantry Division, and I know that they have that capability in the islands to have this early warning system. Didn't go off. The electric company, Hawaii Electric, apparently left the electricity on, which is insane. So if there's a fire in your house, your best thing to do is, if you can get to it, shut off the junction boxes, because, and then gas, right? And in that part, there's probably not a lot of gas lines in the ground, but I guarantee there's a lot of propane tanks there, big ones, the bigger ones. So you don't shut the electricity off, all the things hanging up on the telephone poles and all the little junction boxes on the ground. When the fire hits that, or there's an electrical shock, they explode, and they explode like a 500-pound bomb. And then they just they destroy everything around there. So that's a black swan event. So for 2024 election, could something happen? Could a national emergency be imposed, or could something occur? So I'm talking hypothetically, but giving you a scenario. Could something happen where the President of the United States of America, because they have executive authority, and they have honestly, they have godlike, just the President has like a godlike power, because they can always declare something as a national security event or an emergency for the good of the country. Can they say that we are going to, postpone, delay, or cancel an election? And this, the hypothetical is absolutely. The worst case scenario is absolutely. Now, the best case scenario on the other side would be that we have a fair election in 2024. We know what the answer is by midnight that night, and we all go yay or no, whatever, right? But that's the best case. And right now, we're actually swayed way over more towards the worst case. Okay, and the worst case is, in my mind, is some type of national emergency. Because I know, and it's like I said it earlier, and never forget this, that the sobering reality on earth is that evil exists. And we are facing it. We are face to face with it right now. And I used to think on the battlefield, as a guy who had to always put my feet in the shoes of our enemy, because that was my job, to stand there and go, when somebody said, to me, okay, what are they going to do? What do you think they're going to do? What do you think these, whatever the enemy was, and I faced many of them, what do you think they're going to do? And I'd have to sit there and go, well, here's the options that they have. Here's where I think they're going to do. And then a commander would go, all right, tell me, all right, I got it. Now tell me where do I need to put my resources? That's a tough one to answer. I've had to answer that question a lot. It's a tough one to answer, because when you answer it and that commander makes that decision, he's going to move a whole bunch of forces in that direction, and now you're putting people's lives on the line. Okay? So you better be right, because if you're wrong, we're going to lose more than we need to lose. And so I think in this country, we're in a place where we don't know. And I hate to give you an answer like that, but I do believe that there are scenarios where we might not want to know. Okay? Because I just know I know these people that we're up against. And it's not just those, it's not just the uniparty in Washington, D.C. and the rhinos and whatever other name you want to use. It's this globalist group of people and this global alliance that we are up against. And they're smart. So we have to be smarter. We have to be more innovative. We have to be more savvy, and we've got to, and you know how we are? You know how we do that? We do it right here. Because there's one thing that we all have is really, and God gave it to us. It's called common sense. Common sense. So when you see some politician, and you go, well, we want to, notify him, and give him 4 days to figure out whether this kid's right or wrong. I applaud you guys for what you did. But now you got to get it down to like 4 seconds. Okay? If I'm a teacher and some kid comes into me, and I'm a pretty liberal guy. I'm a very liberal guy. But if some kid came into me, some little 10-year-old boy who ought to be playing Little League baseball or whatever, or learning an instrument or whatever, right? He comes into me and says, I think I'm a girl today. I'm going to be like, okay, boom, and I'm calling the mom. And you know what? If I'm a really good teacher, I know the mom. I know the dad. If I'm a really good teacher, okay? If I'm a really good teacher, I know the parents of the children, and because I've had them in. And you know what? When a parent doesn't show up to a parent-teacher conference, I'm going to probably be calling up as a teacher, because I have a responsibility for the safety and security of that child, just like whoever the adult is that's taking care of them. I don't want to be lazy. I'm not that type of person. Now I'm different. I'm different, maybe. Why am I different? Why should I be different? Why shouldn't every teacher be like that? Okay? All right. Yes, sir, right here. Go ahead.
What do you feel the state of our military is in?
I think that the rank and file of our military is really strong, and especially our non-commissioned officer body, right? Whether it doesn't make any difference what service, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps. I think that the rank and file is good. I think that there is a very senior leadership in our military who, we joke when you get to the level that I got to, that you tend to promote in your own image. So if you have a big ego, you want to promote other guys around you who will stroke your ego, right? That's a dangerous thing. One of the things that I hate to do is I hate to not encourage young people to join our military, because we must have a military. Now, if you read the Constitution only says we must maintain a Navy. It doesn't say anything about an Army. It says in times of war. In times of war you have an Army. But we must maintain a Navy. That's in the Constitution, because that's kind of the way we were at that time. So we have this institution called the military, right? Uniform military is really what I'm talking about. Whether it's active, National Guard, Reserve. So I am very, very concerned about the leadership. And like I said earlier, I have a brother who's a 4-star. Okay, he probably has 120,000 people under his command. Okay, and I know how he is. I'd go work for my brother today, even though I can maybe still kick his rear end. But I just know that he's a warrior. And so I don't worry about him. And I don't speak to him much, because I don't want to put him into a position because of these people, because I'm so outspoken about what we're facing, and what we're facing is what I've already talked about. So I don't even, my brother knows that I love him, and that's all that he needs to know. And so when I think about our Army, our military, I think about him, but I know many of these other guys. I know all of them. I know the Chief of Naval Operations. I know the Commandant of the Marine Corps. I know the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I've served with Millie. Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, was a brand new colonel when I first met him. So he had just made colonel. And he retired as a 4-star, and I served with him many times. I've spent nights with that man. So I know him. And you say to yourself, seriously, Lloyd? Right? He's the Secretary of Defense. Right? So, and I asked them, I'll ask them why. Why? And to me, this is why, remember, the President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief. And so we need to have at this point in time in our country, we are a nation, to me, we're a nation at war. Okay? We're a nation at war clearly overseas. We're a nation at war on our borders. We have an invasion that has killed in action over 100,000 Americans just by fentanyl. Okay? So I call them killed in action. Okay? Because these are beautiful people in our country that are killed in action by a drug that's being introduced, as far as I'm concerned, by an enemy force. Okay? And that enemy force is resourced by an enemy nation called China. So our leadership, there's a time, and I've been through this in my own life, there's a time when it's like, okay, if that's what you guys want, here's my stars, and you put them down on the table, and you walk out, you salute, and you say, I've given it my best shot. Apparently you don't like it, okay? Because if you do things like force feed into the culture of the United States military the idea that critical race, that we're a racist organization, I mean, if there, I can tell you, I've seen racism, I know racism, and I've dealt with it in the military. It's like you cut it out as soon as you see it, because you can't have it. It's not good for the health and welfare of your unit. But we're not a racist military. We're not a racist country. But when they force feed it, yeah, thank you. When they force feed it to us, constantly force feed it to us, then you have indicators, like I said, indicators and warnings. You have indicators where the Army cannot meet its recruiting goals. Okay, that's not a good thing. So when the Army can't meet its recruiting goals in 1 year, the downstream effect is potentially hazardous to the health of the United States of America, right? Because you got to recruit because you got to retire, right? You're going to bring in new blood, fresh troops, because you're going to retire some of the older ones, and you're going to move people up and around, right? It's how big organizations operate. So I'm concerned, really concerned about it. And moms and dads and people come up to me all the time and go, oh, my son's, serving somewhere, and, I'm concerned. And I'm like, I said, how often do you talk to him? And I hope that they talk, I always tell them, call them up. Sometimes if I'm with them and I have a moment, I'll say, call them up right now. See if they'll answer to their mom, right? So I'm concerned about it. I'm not up here jumping up and down, am I? Oh, so let me go right here. I'll come to you, ma'am, in a second. Let me go right here to this gentleman. And then right here.
Do you believe our enemy is using the Constitution of our freedoms against us?
Of course,
the media?
Of course they are. Of course they are. So the Chinese, this is 2023, so let's just say that since 2000, actually since 1998, because 1998 was the first year that I looked at this. So the Chinese have been sending students to United States graduate and undergraduate programs to the tune, in 1998, it was close to 200,000 students, okay? And then it's gotten up to like 500,000. So since, let's just say, 1998 to 2023, that's about what? That's like 25 years, is that right? So almost a generation. I look at a generation like 30 years. But so let's just say slightly under a generation, the Chinese have been sending students to our undergraduate and graduate level programs all over this country, to some of the best schools in our country. And I'm a graduate of a public university, okay? So when I say best schools, like when somebody comes up to me and goes, well, he's a graduate of Harvard. And I'm like, Harvard? Harvard, we just arrested the head of the biology department for spying on the United States of America, okay? So don't tell me you might have a graduation degree or whatever from Stanford or whatever. I'm unimpressed. But the Chinese have been going to these schools, a lot of them, and they go to a lot of them. They don't just go to the University of Chicago or MIT or Georgia Tech or Stanford. They go to a lot of schools. They'll go to University of Oklahoma, University of Alabama, University of Louisiana, right? They'll go up to Boston University or Boston College or Holy Cross. I mean, they put them in, we're talking upwards of 500,000. And I would say on average, over those 25 years, on average, let's just say it's 250,000 a year. Now, when John Kerry was the Secretary of State, he approved the Chinese government to allow their students to stay in the United States for 2 years. So normally it was 1 year, as soon as the school year was over with, back to China. Okay? And they kept working it and working it and working it. John Kerry comes into being the Secretary of State. He approves it for 2 years. So that's a few years ago, right? I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I think. So when you approve a Chinese student for 2 years, guess what happens? They're allowed to stay in the country over the summertime. And so what happens when they are allowed to stay in the country over the summertime? They're I'm answering your question, using this example, because they're leveraging our freedoms and what they can get away with, because the way we are, we're an open society, right? Come on in. We want to show you how powerful democracy is and how good it is, and so you go back to China and you sell it there. It ain't gonna happen. They're not sending people over here because they want to, get them to love democracy. They're sending them over here, and the education that they're taking primarily is the STEM, right? Everybody understands STEM. They're not taking philosophy, theology, art. They're taking science, engineering, mathematics. They're working in labs. When they stay over for a year, we give them things like intern jobs. We actually give them jobs. And they take some jobs, especially those that are in school in and around Washington, D.C., because there's a bunch of colleges and universities there. We give them jobs on the Hill. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And I didn't really know this. So when I just walked you through, I'm going to watch the time. So whoever needs to pull, if people need to get out of here because you got to go to the bathroom or something, go. But, I didn't really start paying attention to this until I was like really senior in the military. And I started to really see a shift of what was happening. And when I saw that shift of what was happening was the acceptance under the Obama administration, and it really started in the Clinton administration, but even the Bush administration. I've had my very public, outings with the Bush administration because, they got us into a mess in the Middle East, but they all just kind of like allowed this to happen, like these Chinese students were going to come in and love everything. No, they were going back home, and they're going back into their industries. They're going back into their military. They're going back into the institutions that they're building. Right? We don't manufacture anything in this country, hardly. So, anyway, I would tell you that if we have something that does make me, it's like, how do I stay energized, right? How do I stay energized, and how do I, I'm one of these like glass full, not half full, not half empty, full. And I'm a glass full type person because I just know what's in the DNA of an American, okay? And what's in the DNA of an American is something called freedom, okay? And we will not give freedom up. You know that, okay? I'm going to take one more. Take one more. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, you're all right. You can yell at me.
I just wanted to hear your thoughts on mail-in ballots and electronic voting machines.
Yeah. So, number one, the entire election system in the United States of America belongs to us. Okay? We pay for it, whether it's a machine, whether it's the thermometer on the wall, or whether it's a printer, or whether it's the person sitting across the desk when you go in to sign in. You have poll watchers and stuff like that. Those are volunteers. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about everybody, all the humans, all the machinery, all the walls, the carpets, the chairs, the voting machines, the paper ballots, all belong to us. And so what have they done for the last couple of years? Fight tooth and nail to keep us from just taking a look at it. I want to just check out a couple of signatures. You said my son voted here. My son doesn't live here, right? You said that this machine doesn't do this, but you don't allow me to look inside. I mean, every one of us, okay? Every one of you gets audited. Because when you turn your taxes in, whether you're turning it in through an accountant or whether you do the 1040 easy, right? When you turn it in, some IRS person gets it. They look at it. That's called an audit. Okay, they're doing an audit. And they're just checking the boxes and making sure everything's right. If it ain't right, they're going to come after you. So why can't we take and audit our election system? Why? I mean, what is the... And the Democrat Party, I mean, talk about lawfare and warfare, right? Lawfare. I mean, they are just... I mean, it's like you go to, say, you know, I mean, Carrie Lake, she's the latest example, but others, there's a lot of others. Trump, all this stuff. We own every single bit of it. We paid for it. Now, in a county, so another constitutional thing, right? And you asked about constitutional stuff. In a county, if you don't take money from the state and you don't take money from the federal government, but you have to follow, you know, state policies for state elections or federal policies for federal elections. But if you don't take money, folks, in the county, now you got to have the right people running the county. You got to have the right people running the county. Okay, if you got a bunch of people that are going to be like just stuffing their pockets with money, doing the typical political thing, then you're in trouble. But every county in this country, if you don't take money from a state or federal and you follow the rules, you can run your elections the way you want. You can vote. That's why we vote for county commissioners. That's why we vote for a county recorder. That's why we vote for school board. That's why we vote for people at the county. That's why we vote for a sheriff, by the way. Is there a sheriff in here?
We love our sheriff, though.
Huh? Anyway, yeah. There's a great book called Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate. Don't forget that. In fact, all of you should read that. Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate. So our election system, ma'am, is ours. So when somebody says, well, no, ma'am, you know, I'm sorry, you can't see that. Say, well, wait a second. Now, if she's by herself, it's a lot harder. But if she's with a room of people like this that are standing outside the county recorder or the county seat and going and starting to pitch tents on the property that we own, okay, and saying we're not moving until we see everything that we need to see. And we trust you. We trust you. These are the two people we trust to go in there. And you go get it. And he's a conservative. Maybe they're both conservatives. You go find a Democrat. You go find somebody on the other side. We don't care. We're not afraid. We are not afraid to see what the results are. If the results aren't in our favor and it looks like it was a fair fight, I'll give you a high five and I'll get you the next time. Okay? But if I find something that's out of whack, and I find that you're the one that's causing this, you're in trouble. Okay? Sheriff, whoever, you know, if there's a sheriff here. That's why we vote for sheriffs. Okay? That's why we put constitutional sheriffs in place. Hopefully, they're all like that. We do have 3 states in the nation that don't have sheriffs. Okay? Some of them have constables, and they're, you know, and I'll tell you, those states aren't doing so hot. The ones that have sheriffs, for the most part, you know, it's 50-50. Some states, like I just left Oklahoma, they have some of the toughest sheriffs I've ever seen. You know, we have a couple of good ones in Florida. You know, a couple. So, ma'am, your question is spot on because we own it. And when somebody says, well, you can't look in those machines, you know how many people the Dominion company has sued for $1.5 billion? I mean, Fox News just paid them $750 million. Mike Lindell is like, I'm going to the Supreme Court. You're going to have to take me to the Supreme Court. You know? But it's like $1.5 billion. Okay, so we've had 2 news organizations settle for large sums of money. Okay? And we have other people that are, you know, potentially in that process. Now, wait a second. That company, we're paying for that stuff. So if you're paying them, I mean, what's going on here? And this is the ridiculousness that we allow. We allow this, folks. We allow this because partly it's somebody else's problem. Oh, they're suing Mike Lindell, or they're suing Fox News. Oh, that's too bad. Or they're suing Sidney Powell. Okay? Took her mug shot today in Georgia. It's insane. So, and we just kind of go, well, that's too bad. I'm so, and then we go off and do our own thing. When they're doing these suits, they're not coming down and suing you because they know they're not going to get a nickel out of you because you don't have more than a nickel. You don't have two nickels to rub together, maybe. So what do? They go after these high-profile people. Why? To scare the crap out of you. Okay, that's why they're going after Trump. That's why they go after me. Because they want to send a message that says, you get in our way, Flynn. But that's why I'm blessed to be able to stand here with you tonight and share a little bit of my life's experiences and just encourage you to stay upbeat, stay positive, stay on the side of the line that says, I'm up, I'm on my feet, I'm positive, I see the light. I'm not going to go toward the dark, right? I want the truth. I don't want the lies, right? I want what's good in life. I don't want all that bad crap. I want to be positive. I want to be on this side of life, okay? Not the other side, which is death, okay, for this country. I want life for this country, and I want life for these young people, right? I want them to have a life that I had and better, right? And then let them figure it out, right? Yeah. All right, God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're going to hang out, though,
You have
right?
more questions?
You're going to hang out, though, right? Okay, all right. Well, General Flynn, we, this is our watch, separate from the church, but at the church, we have a tradition every year for the men of our church. We have a challenge coin that we design for the men of the church, and we pass them out. And this year's coin, on one side of it, you could see a molecular structure there. That's the molecular structure for testosterone. And we thought it would be cool to pass this out because we're living in a time when they're trying to tell men that they can't be men anymore. They should be ashamed of being men. And at 412 Church, the men are proud to be men. The women love our men being men. And we want to present this to you. Thank you so much for coming out, sir. All right. All right, well, General Flynn said that he's going to be here. He will be right on the other side of this door. So if you guys want to go over there and meet him, I encourage you to do so.
And I will be the last one to leave here if I have to be. So if you're willing to wait in line, I'll stand there all night and take a photo, okay? All right.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you all for coming. Everybody's tuned online. God bless you. We'll see you every single day on our watch.